welcome back to this another Andrew's Trains 125 video. You join me on a bus heading to the Ipswich Railway Workshops, where we'll be catching two steam trains. The first one being AC16 Loco 22A on her 80th birthday journey, and the second one is BB18 a quarter 1089 on her first journey since 2018. This video will be split into two parts, so the first bit will be AC16's 22A's 80th birthday run, as the train reverses back into the platform, and the history of the class and the loco generally. Our story begins during the outbreak of the Second World War, with the Japanese moving in from the north and occupying Papua New Guinea and Queensland under threat. Extra resources were needed to move troops and general freight around the state. With all the wartime activities, this put a great strain on the Queensland railway system. So in 1941, QR put out a tender for 20 locomotives that will be based on the C17 class design, which had been proven to be reliable on the Queensland railway system. Queensland Railways then forwarded the specifications to the United States Army Transport Corps, who awarded the contract to the Baldwin Works, who would build the locomotives. The locomotives would then be shipped to Australia via Sydney and then railed up to Brisbane, where they will be completed. The locos were on a lend-lease agreement which was signed between Australia and the United States at the time. However, these locos would be later purchased. When they entered service, they were under the US Army's road numbers. However, they would be later renumbered once QR had purchased them. The first locomotive entered service in 1943 and were pressed into service hard as the war raged on in the Pacific. However, the class wasn't without their problems, as the original tenders that they had tended to sway a bit and rode roughly on the rough track, especially after the war had ended, as the railways were deeply in disrepair and the tracks were not in the best condition. Because of the tender problems, the locos were restricted to 30 miles per hour and barred from passenger workings, and also due to heavy axle loads, the locos' route access was limited to the main lines only. Another problem with the loco was that the shovel for the firemen, the shovel point was quite low, which meant it made really difficult for the firemen to shovel coal into the furnace of the engine. But it wasn't all doom and gloom for loco and mostly negatives. There were some positives which were later adopted, like for example the use of louvered coal boards, which would subsequently become standard on all Queensland Railway locos, and headlight mounted smoke on the smoke box doors, which were adopted on later designed QR locos. But for the negatives, fixes would be on the way for the already mentioned tender problem, as they got tenders from C16 locomotives. Loco 217A trialled this, and with the trials proven successful, all 19 locos towards the later years of their lives were retrofitted with these tenders. However, with the problems fixed, as these locos would enter the later years of their lives, and it turns out it would be their glory days. The 7 of the class members would be based up at Alpha, and they would regularly do the Midlander service between Alpha and Longridge, which is today the Spirit of the Outback, as the large American boilers were large enough to reduce the running times over certain banks of the journey. However, this would not last long, as they were taken off the Midlander service in 1963 and replaced with steam locomotives, with the last unit being withdrawn in 1969. As it is her 80th birthday, there was a big celebration and pavilion, which also I will mention, it was the first service. There were cupcakes, flags, and this pin which we got, and also cake to mark the celebration, and a band also. Boarding for this service would commence shortly afterwards, after the celebrations were done. Everybody would follow the line and we would walk down, find our carriages. where a staff member will tick your name off and you can jump on board. Entering the carriage, you can see it's been lovely restored, as during the pandemic hiatus they probably would have done a bit of a touch up to the carriages to keep them going for a bit longer. And eventually we found our padded, lovely leathered padded seats.
41 and 42, 47, 48.
We would depart the Ipswich Rail workshops, let's just say a few minutes late. But it was not much of a biggie because we were on a heritage run and everybody was in a cheerful spirit.
Oh, did you really? Oh, okay. Because I did see some people getting it. Yeah.
Morning. Morning. Just don't use the toilet until we get past it. You can't use it between everything. So there's just a little bit of information for safety. You know, there's no children here, so no one's going to fall out the window.
No.
You're allowed to walk through the train, all the verandas.
Yep.
No children here, so,
No children, we're all
so
together.
you're allowed to walk through the train on the verandas.
In a moment, the train will have to stop because the line, the short branch up to the Ipswich Railway Workshop, does not even have fully automatic level crossings, nor does it have that trains going down that frequently. So, and plus the line goes through the Ipswich Riverlink shopping centre. So what has to happen is that we have to stop, let the crossing guards close off the roads so that we can cross over safely and without incident. And plus we didn't want to ruin the journey by stopping because someone unfortunately cut corners trying to get over the level crossings or getting sadly killed, which we don't want, especially on a first journey like this one. Here's an interesting fact. We'll be crossing the Bremen River today, the river that we're currently crossing, a grand total of 4 times. Firstly on the its branch line up to workshops, and secondly on the main line just near Walkeracka station. We're now rounding the bend, as we will have to stop because we'll be reversing back into Ipswich station to pick up some passengers who couldn't make it us up to the Ipswich workshops because they had to catch a city train into Ipswich station, or getting to the workshops parking will be too painful. But anyways, whilst we were waiting to go back into the platform at Ipswich workshops, we met our locos, diesel locos, that will rescue us if we break down. After listening to some E&D greatness for a bit, we had finally had permission to reverse back into the Ipswich station's platform 4, where we pick up some passengers before continuing on the journey towards Grantchester. Also, a side note with the locos, they would follow us for the entire journey out to Grantchester, and they would follow us back in. With the passengers at Ipswich loaded aboard, we were now ready to depart. As we're travelling down the tracks, the line we're travelling on today is the main line, the first ever railway built in Queensland, which opens in 1865 from Ipswich out to Grantchester. The original Grantchester station is still there. However, the Ipswich station, as you may have noticed, let's just say it's not good, and the place where I honestly don't want to go, as the original station building had been demolished and basically street cars all over, and a mall was built over on the top of the station. The stations we'll be going past today, the first one being Thomastown and the last being Rosewood. However, both stations in between do have a regular suburban service with a form of a shuttle service from Ipswich and a peak hour service from Brisbane. Oh, and this is Berra River Crossing number 2.
I sit here?
Oh, we're moving again. Driver's back on.
As you may have noticed as we passed Carbon Station, we had to stop for a bit. Mainly because of the bearings on the oil on the loco needed a little bit of oil or lubricant. Once that was done and the loco was properly all good, we set off again.
Oh, we're moving again. Driver's back on.
Just like Carbon, unfortunately we did have to make another stop again for some oil and lubricant stuff and probably to check the loco. Once everything was all good, we were probably on the move again. Oh, and this is not Carbon, we're just stopped outside Fangoon. Since we're back on the move, why don't we have a look around the train? Starting off with the restaurant car, which is actually a shop selling books and other stuff relating to the Australian Railway Historical Society, who is chartering a train under their Sunshine Express brand, with the rolling stock and loco owned by QR. As you can see, there's books to buy and there were staff on hand who are friendly enough to help. Walking between the carriages is quite not that easy as you think, because there's open air and all that. The seating is just like your old day style. Comfy leather seats, open windows, best kind of air conditioning, luggage racks and a light, which is LED by the way, a carriage map and information about your carriage, like this one which was built back in 1910 and has been refurbished many times since then. And for the Instagram famous 8125 fist tests on these seats, well, these seats passed the pub test since they got ample amount of padding on them. And of course the luggage racks are mesh, typical 1910 style, and the LED light again. We're now passing Rosewood Station, which means it's only one point. The end of the city train network and the end of running under the wires. As from here on in, you either need to be steam powered, powered by diesel, or battery or electric trains, or pretty much battery trains, like that's ever gonna happen in my lifetime, or hydrogen powered trains. Someone please hurry it up. And you might notice there's a track machine there. On the weekend we did this trip, there was a track closure. Actually, no, on both occasions there were track closures, but they were mainly on the southern lines, so such as the Cleveland, Gold Coast and Beenleigh lines. However, we were the only train scheduled to travel on the line between Rosewood and Grantchester, as there was no coal traffic because of the Cleveland line out, which meant trains cannot access the port of Brisbane. So pretty much today we're the only train traffic on the line. We're now approaching what was originally the end of the line, Grantchester Station, or as it was known when it opened, Biggs Camp. Well, the platform was fully crowded with people taking photos of the train as we came in, and plus it was the first proper steam train tour since the whatever, I don't want to name it. This meant there was a big celebration on the platform. And also, this train was extremely long. It was like 9 carriages. Originally there was going to be 6 carriages, but because by popular demand, this server had to put on an extra 3 carriages just so they can cope with the demand. But basically speaking, this train was a sold out ticket. As we got off the train, we may as well take a quick walk around through the station. This is the main station hall with the ticket office, all that, including some signalling gantry points to work the points, not operational anymore. A cafeteria where you were able to buy some stuff, and plus burgers were provided. Oh, and they did bring the cake, but there was more than one cake. So for the meal tokens, last time they used gambling points, but this time if you placed a meal order, they'll give you these 2 tickets. Although the burger in my opinion, it was okay, but not the best burger in the world. Anyways, there was still ours related merchandise, and we're able to get a quick look inside the station master or ticket office area, which is full of railway memorabilia. During the process, the train decoupled from the carriages and rolled around the turntable. Roll on the photo montage! With the train turned around, all that, and recoupled to the consist, we were ready to go, ready to head back to Ipswich. One interesting thing about the heritage carriages, they have steps on them, so with low platforms like Grantchester, which is like European train height, you have to climb up the steps and you're in the carriage. Anyways, we're ready for departure after everybody got aboard and the platform clear. We were off, heading back to Ipswich. As we're not far from Ipswich Station, we may as well check out the toilets on the train. The toilets were kept nice and clean throughout the journey. Wash basin, covered up mirror, window, mirror I should say, there's the mirror. Soap was provided, and another thing, these trains are not fitted with retention tanks, which means pretty much your business will go straight onto the tracks. Anyways, we're nearing the end of the journey as we're now passing Thomas Street, which means we're not far from Ipswich Station. As we're coming into Ipswich station, just like last time, as people got on the train, some people got off because some people needed to catch the city trains back into Brisbane, however, as you will see soon in the BB18 1089 quarter bit of the video, you'll see how the reversal, how they get into the platform. But same thing as we did on the way out, the train will reverse out and then head into the Ipswich station platform. You'll see this shortly in the BB18 a quarter 1089 video. However, in that video, the train did not make a stop at Ipswich and it just went straight from the workshops station out towards Grantchester. That video will be coming in a moment shortly. Anyways, we're now approaching into Ipswich station, the end of our journey on ACS16 221A. How can I sum it up? Very good journey, really lovely day, had quite a bit of fun, and honestly, it was a good journey. The only things, actually, I can't figure anything to fault because it was the first journey, and all the memorabilia we caught, I actually still got it today. And actually, as we speak, recording this video, I got the pin sitting on the service on my laptop, reminding me of the journey. Anyways, I'll not hold you up further as the loco is now departing. The BB18 a quarter bit will begin shortly. Now we're on to the BB18 1089 section of the video. As the train's reversing into the platform at the Ipswich workshops, let's talk about the history of the loco. 1089 is well known in Australia for being the last mainline steam engine built anywhere in Australia for Queensland Railways, built in 1958 by Walkers Limited up in Maryborough. Very famous manufacturer who built many steam locomotives for the Queensland Railways and would later go on and would still be a supplier by providing diesel hydraulic shunters and electric trains. And it's still around today, but part of the Downer Group. 1089, as mentioned, was built in 1958. To commemorate it, a special plaque was donated by Walkers in 1965, which is stand on the loco. The loco was in service for 11 years with the Queensland Railways, being withdrawn in 1969. She survived into preservation and has been restored to working order, with her last trip being during the Echo train in 2018. Anyways, let's enjoy the train as she pulls into the state platform at the Ipswich workshops. Once everything on the train was set up and ready to go, boarding would commence. However, the train, we didn't actually start boarding until quite late, which meant, as you'll see soon, we missed our departure, our slot to go onto the main line and head out towards Grantchester, which meant we had to wait for a suburban train to come in and out of the station before we were allowed to set off. Anyways, we took our seat and we are ready to go. Well, nearly. Well, there we go. Hope breaks off now and we will be off soon.
the window, or we will close it.
station. There's a wall down the one side. Now you go to the other, then across to the right. First,
As you probably may have noticed and heard of the squealing of the brakes, we are now stopping just before the signal before we can access the main line. As I said again, as we were boarding and getting ready to go, we were running late and we did miss our slot to get on the main line, which meant we had to wait a while to get a new slot and head out onto the main line after a couple of suburban trains have gone past. It's now you might think, oh, the railway, why do the railways need a slot? Well, pretty much because you don't want to run one behind another train, and of course you don't want to get behind. So it's just like an airplane when you need a slot to take off, but it's kind of the railway's style, but different. Anyways, you can now see we're now traversing the bend around onto the main line and heading out towards Grantchester. However, just note, for this trip, we did not stop and reverse back into Ipswich station. However, it was not an option, just like the Yank trip earlier in the video. However, it was part of a few changes which were in effect on this journey. So pretty much compared to the last one on the Yank trip, you may have noticed I was filming much on the verandas, however, and moving around the train. However, on this trip, let's just say Queensland Rail's heritage steam train rules were implemented, which meant most people stayed in their seats. Travelling between the carriages was not an option apart from Sunshine Express volunteers and Queensland Rail staff. And you may have noticed we just stopped outside Thomas Street. The reason being is we're letting a suburban train past us before we can cross over a set of points, just go over the Bremer River and go and head towards Grantchester, which means the line ahead will be clear for us and we can head straight there. As you may have noticed, we have stopped again. That's because we are picking up a water tanker that will follow us all the way out to Grantchester, out and back. And if you ask about the location, we picked up the water tanker at Seethers Road on the line between Carbon and Walloon. As you may have noticed, we are now approaching back into Grantchester. We were meant to have an hour and a half stop here whilst the loco changes around, and also the tanker, to get ready heading back towards Ipswich. However, we would be departing late as well and did not get back into Ipswich just before 1 o'clock. But as you may have noticed, things have been a little bit different on this trip compared to the Yanks trip, because the difference between the two was the trip back in September was the Yanks' 80th birthday trip, which meant it was a little bit more of a celebration, and 1089 returning to the main line. And as you note, and as we come into the station, you'll notice the balloon loop that Grantchester has got to turn locos around. The balloon loop is still one of the few locations left on the Queensland Rail network, with several in South East Queensland, with several still remain at Shorncliffe, Bourneside, and Landsborough. Here we are, welcome back to Grantchester. After disembarking the train, we will still go through the same procedure and the same platform. And, of course, we'll need to find our way to exit the station. In a second, you may have noticed things are different. Unlike last time, there wasn't an offer to get any meals or food. Instead, they brought in chartered food trucks. And as we now see, the loco's now shunting back to turn around.
Yeah, I still got my card up.
With the train back in the platform, everyone aboard, we were ready to depart, heading back to Ipswich and to wrap up our day.
This phone's too old for this app. Yeah. Well, yeah, he had an old phone. It was bloody 5 or 6 years old. Quick up that bloody phone. Phone technology. After 3 or 4 years, probably more. Oh, I just got a new one too. Oh no, I got a new phone. I got 12 months old on board. That's all the phone. It started playing up after 12 months. I had to turn it on and off to make phone calls. My backup phone that made a phone call right off, so I was phone. Just had a special on this. There's another phone.
As you may have noticed now, we're back on the branch line heading up to the workshops, and also we've stopped. This is mainly due to the fact that the level crossings going past the Riverlink Shopping Centre need to be secured and in place, and everything is safe for the loco to come through. Once that was all complete and confirmed, we were ready to head through that and back to the workshops.
Save your number, and also the 3 teams. Hopefully Jason gets a video for you about it. That's obviously you've got to come and get someone to the video. You still have to go through the garden. Yeah, but then you go to the counter and say, show them what you bought, and you go through a couple of well. That's how you do it. You ordered this, yeah, that's 3 teams. It's a bit you've been old, agile, dead. She doesn't even look that bloody well, I know, actually, it's right.
As you may have already noticed, we're already back at the Ipswich Workshop platform. Anyways, how can I summarize the 2 journeys? They were really great, it was really awesome, and I'm glad I was able to come out and record these videos for you. And it was a really nice opportunity to see 2 once great locos back in service and restored. And was more happy to see 1089 for the first time since 2018, when I actually last recorded her doing the Echo train shuttles with the SX carriages. However, and it was also great to see steam action back on the main line here in Queensland for the first time since the pandemic. And it was also great to see both these trains sold out, as they were extremely popular, especially on days like today, which is really great to see and helps out our heritage and basically means keep our heritage alive, which is really, really great. If you made it to the end, well done! Congratulations! Thank you for watching this video. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and don't forget to leave a comment down below. Anyways, recent video will be shown on the top left corner, and on the top right corner is usually I would put a suggested video, but I'm going to suggest the video from 2020 of the last mainline steam trip in Queensland with 1079. And don't forget to check out one of the other 8125 group channels, and also subscribe. Thank you for watching. See you next time. Bye bye.